So we mentioned a moment ago about share classes and how we put the number of shares and the value per share. Well, what we're going to do now is run through kind of a way in which you can set your company up, or have someone set your company up for you, to enable you to pay your dividends flexibly. So if you set your company up and it's yourself and your wife or your partner, for instance, and you're in the shares 50-50, what must happen is dividends must be paid in proportion to the shareholding that you actually own. So if we were to declare £50,000 of dividends, you would be taxed on 25%, being 50% of the total dividends that are paid, and your wife would be taxed on 25%. But the issue with this is that someone in the household, so you might be a higher rate taxpayer or your wife might be a higher rate taxpayer, which would result in them paying 32.5% tax on some of their dividends, or even 38.1% if they're an additional rate taxpayer, whilst you might have all of your basic rate band free, which means you'd only pay tax at 7.5%. And even then, if they might have other dividend income, so you might lose the £2,000 dividend allowance as well. And the best way to get around this, so we can take dividends flexibly, is to have different classes of shares. So what we'd do is we'd say shareholder A, so you would have A shares, and then shareholder B, your partner, would have class B shares. And then what that enables you to do is, say for that £50,000 dividends, you might say, okay, great, I'll take £40,000 of that because that's how much is left in my basic rate band. And then you might give your partner, your spouse, £10,000 on the class B shares. And overall, that means that you've not had it done 50-50, and you don't risk paying tax at 32.5% or those additional rates. However, it's quite complicated because when we mentioned previously that you can use the default articles of association, when you have a company with multiple share classes, you have to get them draft bespoke articles of association. So I wouldn't recommend doing it yourself. Speak to an accountant. It does cost about £350 to set it up in the get-go, but it will likely save you thousands of pounds in tax each year. So that's a very small price to pay.